Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the SPUMC Sony Pictures Universal Marvel characters, the weird little Spider-Man villain universe that they created where they're all connected but they're not connected, and they were like, this is going to become a Sinister Six movie, and then it's not going to become a Sinister Six movie. I have no idea what to call this, but Sony Pictures' experimental phase where they made the Venom movies and they made the Madam Web movie and Morbius and Kraven the Hunter, which officially is out in theaters and is supposedly the last one of these movies that they're ever going to make, which, thank God. I'm incredibly excited to talk about these movies. I definitely think that there's a lot of highlights here and there's mostly lowlights. So let's dive into this ranking, shall we? Alrighty, and coming in dead last place, we have the movie Morbius. I think that there's a lot to say about this movie, and to kind of give you guys a general idea of why I dislike this movie, I'm going to tell you everything that I enjoyed about this movie. There's a scene where Matt Smith does a little dancey dance. That's pretty much it. I think that this movie has a lot of moments that should work. I feel like the character, arcs of the two main characters, like the villain and the good guy, I feel like their arcs are relatively interesting. All the flashback sequences, the way that they build their friendship could have worked relatively well, but overall it's just not that interesting. I think that this movie just fails from the fact that it's incredibly boring. The main character doesn't have a lot of charisma or any really good character traits that make you actually want to cling to this character. He's not somebody you can resonate with. The stakes in this movie are very, very minuscule. It's like this one vampire fighting against this one other vampire. The visual effects are very wonky. They do a lot of really weird stuff when it comes to the action sequences, and his powers literally never get explained throughout this movie. It's an incredibly strange film, and I think that overall there's not much to really enjoy about it. I think that Jared Leto really needs to stay away from superhero movies. He's really not doing a great job with it. His track record is absolutely terrible, and I just think that this movie was just really a hard watch. Coming in 5th place, we have a movie that's probably a worse movie, but at least was entertaining to watch, Madam Web. Personally, I think that a lot of the problems with this movie can be chalked up to the fact that they decided to cast Dakota Johnson to play somebody who is famously a very, very old lady. And once again, this is another one of those examples where it's like, this is a character that only works with Spider-Man, and they're like, let's not have Spider-Man in this movie. But they were like, you know what, we can tease 3 female Spider-Men, and this is going to be incredible because now Marvel, the people who actually know how to use these characters, are not going to be allowed to use these characters for the next 3 years. That's fantastic. And on top of that, we're just going to tease them as Spider-Woman. We're not actually going to show them as Spider-Woman. They're never even going to become Spider-Woman throughout the time span of this movie. And it's painfully bad. I think that everything they do with the ADR in this movie is not great. I feel like a lot of the comedy aspects of this movie are not great. The decision to randomly make this take place in 2003 does not make sense at all. A lot of the stuff that Ezekiel Sims does throughout this movie also very questionable. I don't think he had any actual motive, so they had to add it in post, and it's very obvious that everything that almost 90% of his lines are ADR, and there will be a lot of lines where it's like the actor's mouth is literally not moving, but he's saying things, and it is so painfully bad, and I really dislike it. And I just think that the one thing that this movie had going for it is it's so bad that it was fun to watch. There were a couple of sequences, like one in particular where Madam Web is driving around in an ambulance, which she stole. By the way, she steals 7 cars in this movie. I know it's only 3, but she steals a bunch of cars in this movie. That's just something she keeps doing. And there's a specific sequence where Ezekiel Sims is catching up to the girls, and he's about to catch them, and oh my god, they're going to be in danger. What's going to happen? And then Madam Web drives an ambulance through a concrete wall of a parking garage and just hits Ezekiel Sims with the car, and I started dying laughing in that scene. And the entire rest of the third act, I think, is just painfully stupid that it's so funny to watch. It's actually just genuinely hilarious watching how bad the final fight sequences are. The final fight sequence are a bunch of people who have 0 powers fighting against somebody who has the powers of Spider-Man, and the people who have 0 powers, they can just kind of see the future a little bit, end up winning that fight. Okay, yeah, let's do that. That's fantastic. I just think that this movie is painfully stupid, and it is actually so bad that it was fun to watch. And I think that that says something. Good job, Sony. And now coming in fourth place, once again, a movie that is actually just bad. There isn't a lot of redeemable things here. We have Venom, Let There Be Carnage. I'm going to go ahead and say this, and I've said this every single time I've ever talked about this movie ever. If the best part of your movie and the most exciting part of your movie comes after the credits, I think you did something wrong. I remember watching this movie in theaters with one of my buddies, and I thoroughly remembered leaving the theater being like, that was awesome. I can't believe they did this. This is so cool. This is one of the best things I've ever seen. And then I remember rewatching it for the first time after it was in theaters and thinking, this movie sucks. Like, there is nothing good about this movie. I feel like there's one action sequence that works relatively well. And for the most part, this entire movie has, like, a lot of, like, oh my god, Eddie Brock and Venom have a will they, won't they trope in the middle of this movie. They, like, break up, they go their separate ways, they have, you know, a bunch of fun without each other, and then they end up realizing by the end of it, you know what, I think I need him. And that's fun. It's entertaining, but, like, what the hell? And then I feel like everything with, Carnage's girlfriend and them breaking him out of jail or whatever, and then them having their little like romance stuff is so similar to Harley Quinn and the Joker in the really bad Suicide Squad movie that came out, I believe, in 2016. And so there's just a lot of really questionable decisions that came in this movie. I feel like they got Woody Harrelson to play Carnage, and that is like one of the best casting decisions that on paper that's golden, and it somehow doesn't work in the movie, and I hate that to death. And then my complaint about, you know, the best part of the movie being after the credits, that end credit scene was so good that it literally feels like they were tricking you to leave the theater being like, oh my god, that movie was awesome, because like I said, I thought that movie was great when I watched it the first time, and then I remember watching it back and being like, the only reason this movie is really that entertaining is because it connected to Spider-Man, and it got us really excited because, oh my god, Spider-Man is finally going to interact with one of these characters, and then he doesn't. So, that was interesting. And now, coming in third place, we have the first one that I would actually willingly watch again, the original Venom movie. Personally, I think that this movie does a lot of things right. I think that the origin story is fantastic. I think that, for the most part, Tom Hardy was incredible casting as Venom, and I think that everything that they do at the beginning of this movie, setting up Eddie Brock as this guy who really wants to get this inside scoop. He wants to know why these billion-dollar corporations have really shady things going on. He wants to know what's going on in the minds of these billionaires, and he wants to kind of like confront people who are very, very shitty people. And I think that that is awesome, right? I think that there's something very heroic about that. And I think if you're going to make a movie about a character who's typically a bad guy and you want to somehow make him a good guy, that's a good way to do it. He is just really out to get people who are significantly worse, and I think that that's the perfect way to make a vigilante movie. And in my opinion, the first Venom movie has a lot of things going for it. I think that Eddie Brock is a very relatable character. He's somebody who's down on his luck. He's somebody who really just wants to, like, make a difference in this world, but he's finding it really, really difficult. The fact that he gets fired in this movie, the fact that his girlfriend broke up with him and is moving on and he's having to deal with that. I feel like there's a lot to enjoy about this movie, but ultimately it kind of falls short in some of the moments, with Carlton Drake being one of the worst villains that Marvel has ever had. I think that that actor, who is a very talented actor, is given nothing to work with. I think that it's an incredibly bland portrayal. I think that overall there's a lot of things that are very underdeveloped. Like, that company, I believe, has not a lot going on that has to do with space, but then, like, the movie starts off with, like, oh, their spaceship is returning with a bunch of symbiotes, and there's just a lot of things that go really underexplained, and then they spend a lot of time in this movie kind of, like, setting up the Venom and Eddie Brock relationship, and it's funny, it's entertaining, there's a lot of stuff that works with it, but we still have very little understanding of everything that's going on in this movie. But that being said, a couple of the action sequences are great. The chase sequence on the motorcycle in the beginning of this movie is, in my opinion, still one of the best sequences that has happened in the entirety of the SPUMC, but the third act is so underwhelming, and overall I think that this movie just falls flat at the very end. Coming in second place, though, our runner-up, I have Venom: The Last Dance. I think that this movie took a lot of swings that I really, really appreciated. And I think, for the most part, this is one of the first times that the SPUMC actually understood its audience. I think that they knew that a lot of people who enjoyed the Venom movies liked how over-the-top it was. I think that they really enjoyed the fact that they had stuff like, in the second movie where Venom just randomly is, like, dancing in a club, and they have a scene where he's dancing with Miss Chen in Las Vegas. Do they really explain why she's there? It just is, and isn't that fantastic? We love that. We get to see Venom gambling. That's fun. We get to see the stuff with the horse. I think that that's cool. The couple of, like, family road trip type moments. It's entertaining. I think that it's funny enough, and I think that they know that they have a character that works when it's super silly, and they just decided to make it super silly, and I really enjoyed that. I think that Noel was in this movie a lot more than I was expecting him to be, and I think that he had a lot of aura, and he was a pretty cool, menacing villain. I think that they did a lot of really fun stuff with just being like, you know what, this is the last one we're going to do with these. Let's throw all the symbiotes in here. There's a bunch of fun references and Easter eggs for a lot of people who really want to nitpick and like go through and be like, oh my god, there's this guy, oh my god, there's that guy. And I think that that's fun. I think that this really does a good job of just kind of like throwing the audience a bone and being like, here, we know that we've been doing a lot of like really bad stuff recently. Just enjoy this. It's going to be like a sloppy, fun mess, but at the end of the day, it's fun, it's entertaining, it's incredibly funny, and there are a couple of action sequences that I think really worked for me. Now, apparently this is a hot take, but in my opinion, this is the absolute best of the SPUMC movies. We got Kraven the Hunter. I think that this movie is fun. I think that this movie is ridiculously fun, and to all the people who've been like, oh my god, I really want to see Aaron Taylor Johnson as James Bond, go watch this movie. Like, I think that this movie actually genuinely works really well if you think of it as kind of like a spy espionage type movie. This guy's going around killing people who are really, really terrible people. He's killing people who are, you know, cartel guys. He's killing people who, like, deal with drugs. He's, you know, killing a bunch of really shitty people that the justice system is failing. And I do think that there is a version of this movie that works incredibly better than, you know, the version of this movie that we got. But at the end of the day, I think that the actor who's playing Rhino is incredible. I think that he brings a great energy every time he's on screen. He's somebody who's really weird and he's playing to the audience. I think that that's fantastic. I think that the actor who plays Chameleon is absolutely incredible. I love the little impersonation bits that they give him where he's just like, okay, you know, he's this really rich guy. He has his own club and he's going to sing at his club, and apparently he's really good at impersonations. So he's singing like Harry Styles. He's singing like other old famous singers, and he's just having a damn good time. That's what you would do if you have those superpowers. And I think that there's just a lot of great moments in this movie. I think that obviously it has a lot of the same problems with Madam Web, where you can tell that they edited the hell out of this movie. There's so many ADR moments. There's a lot of sequences where they're like, oh crap, we want Kraven's origin story to be explained, so we're gonna have to do a scene where he gets this potion. Oh my god, crap, we didn't explain the potion. Okay, we're gonna add in this scene where they talk about this potion. Oh, but we didn't film anything for that. Do we need to include some reshoots? You know what? We have a like picture of the back of these two people's head. We'll just like add in and dialogue over the top of it for like a minute long. They're just going to talk about this random potion. And like, there's a lot of moments like that where it's like, this movie doesn't work. But if you overlook the maybe like 5 minutes worth of that really bad stuff, this movie's so entertaining. The action sequences are incredible. Aaron Taylor Johnson is acting his heart out, and he's having a really good time with this role. And I think that the action is fantastic. The comedy is fantastic. The story of brotherhood is actually really working for me in this movie. I think that Sergei and Dimitri's like relationship in this is really good. And I think that this movie set up a really interesting, what could have been a really great way to take these movies going forward. Is there's a guy in New York who is creating metahumans. That is incredibly, incredibly cool. And in my opinion, Kraven the Hunter is one of the movies that works the best without Spider-Man, because if you've watched or played the Spider-Man 2 video game, one of the big deals about Kraven is he wants to hunt anything he possibly can. He's going to hunt the most, you know, dangerous animals, the most dangerous people, and he decides, you know what, I'm going to go hunt Spider-Man, because that would be a really challenging thing to do, because, you know, Kraven's Last Hunt, that's what he does. And in that game, to practice, he kills a bunch of Spider-Man villains. So you're telling me that we're going to make a Kraven the Hunter movie and he's going to be hunting Spider-Man villains? Hell yeah, that makes sense. The Rhino in this is fantastic. The Foreigner is very fun. I feel like he did not need to be in the movie, but I'm glad he was. That was really entertaining. And I love the stuff that, like I said, they did with Chameleon. I think that this movie worked. And I am really bummed out that because of the negative connotation with movies like Madam Web and with Morbius, a lot of people aren't going to go out and see this. And a lot of people online who are already talking about it are saying that this movie is absolutely terrible. And that makes me really sad. I actually thoroughly enjoyed this movie. But yeah, that being said, that was all of the SPUMC movies ranked. I don't think any of them are particularly amazing, but I do think that at the end of the day, the top 3 are at least fun enough to watch. I don't think any of them I would give above a 75 rating on a scale of 1 to 100. But that being said, they were interesting, and I'm glad that we had them while they lasted. But that being said, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. And if you like it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow, bow, bow.